Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to this EU Life Information Days, edition 2024. So we are now live with our next presentations. This morning we had some general presentations on the Life Calls for Proposals 2024 and also some insight on how to apply and especially on how to prepare the financial part of your application. And this afternoon we will present two types of calls for proposals. Calls for proposals for life strategic projects from 2 to 3 p.m. and calls for proposals for technical assistance replication projects. So I don't want to waste more of your time. I would call my colleague Maria Jose Aramburu to join us. After her, there will be also a colleague from CINEA, Fabio Dalan, who will present with her the calls for proposals for strategic nature projects. And after that, we will have an intervention by Przemysław Ogiński from the European Commission, Policy Officer for Biodiversity, in the European Commission, and a presentation by Els Herremans, an experienced strategic project coordinator. So now I would give the floor to Maria Jose to give us the presentation on the strategic projects calls for proposals. Maria Jose, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Eva. If we can see the slides, please. Thank you very much, everybody. My name is Maria Jose Aramburu. I am working for CINEA in the LIFE program, in the subprogram Nature and Biodiversity. This is just the points that we are presenting today. First of all, we are starting with an introduction of the strategic projects, the 2024 call. Me and my colleague Fabio Dalan will be presenting this part. We will be following by a presentation from the representative of the DG Environment on how the strategic projects may help to implement the environmental and climate policy priorities. And finally, we will have a presentation from a strategic project that is currently being implemented. Next slide, please. So just as it was told this morning, the LIFE program is structured into fields and 4 subprograms. As you can see in the slide, there are separate calls for strategic projects for each, for only 3 of the 4 subprograms. The application of the strategic projects must address only one of those topics. Of course, you can you can submit separate proposals under each topic, but each proposal has clearly to focus on one of those subprograms. It could be nature and biodiversity, could be circular economy and quality of life, or any time of climate change, mitigation or adaptation. So the SNAP, we call SNAP to the strategic nature and biodiversity projects, and we call SIP to the strategic projects dealing with circular economy and quality of life or with climate issues. The strategic call represents 4% of the total number of projects, and it also comprises 26% of the total LIFE funding. I would like to highlight that the strategic projects must contribute to improve the knowledge base and to apply best practices, but also may develop and demonstrate and promote innovative techniques or methods for reaching the objectives of the EU legislation and policy on those sectors, nature and biodiversity, environment or climate issues. Strategic projects might also contribute to improve governance at all levels, in particular to improve the capacities of public and private actors and also enhancing at the same time the involvement of civil society. An important feature of the strategic projects is that they must catalyze the deployment of successful solutions for implementing specific EU legislation and policies on environment, also by replicating actions or methods and integrating those environmental objectives in other sectors. And a really relevant issue of this type of projects is that they must be able to mobilize investment from other type of funds, EU funds or private funds, and improving the access to several ways of financing. Next slide, please. So, in a nutshell, the key features of the strategic projects is that they must be designed to implement specific plans and strategies. I will explain this a little bit later. As I said before, the project must be able to catalyze the full implementation of the targeted plan or strategy, because maybe it is very difficult to implement entirely the strategy during the duration of a project, but yes, it must be able to catalyze or to facilitate the full implementation after the project is concluded. So this type of project must contribute to overcome diverse barriers for the implementation of the plan or the strategy at different levels, at administrative level, financial level, or perhaps structural barriers. Another relevant difference of this project with, for example, traditional projects is that they must be implemented at a large territorial scale, meaning it should be a regional level, multi-regional, national, or transnational level. The strategic projects should be coordinated by the authority responsible for the implementation of the plan or strategy, and also must involve the stakeholders for the implementation of the project. So it is a key issue, and only, for example, the exception to the coordination by the authority responsible could be allowed if it is well justified. For example, some cases, some projects, the public authorities has very bureaucratic procedures, and that could be hindering the development of the project. And then they decide not to be the coordinators of the project, but always the authority must be partnered in the consortium. In the same way, the involvement and participating as beneficiaries of the stakeholders is really key for the success of the projects. So the appropriate involvement of all the concerned stakeholders is really essential. So it's another aspect that must be really well developed in your proposal. At the same time, the project must be able to include actions that facilitate the mobilization and use of other complementary funds. So these funds can also finance the implementation of actions and measures beyond those ones of the LIFE project itself, and must be, of course, in line with the objectives of the project, and to facilitate the implementation of the plan or the strategy addressed. Finally, the duration of the project, the strategic projects, is not fixed, but it is limited to a maximum of 14 years. Usually, they are having a timing between 8 to 10 years, but it could be until 14. The strategic projects, given its complexity, are usually structured in 3 phases: phase 1, phase 2, etc. That should normally last 3 years each one, to easy the administrative issues. I would like also to highlight that the workload linked to the management of the strategic projects, the coordination and the reporting is frequently underestimated. So it's really important to really estimate well the human resources necessary for both the coordinator and the rest of the beneficiaries in the planning phase. Next slide, please. As I was telling you, the main feature of the strategic projects is that they have to address a concrete strategy or plan to be implemented. This type of strategies or plans, of course, are different depending if it is a nature biodiversity project, an environmental project, or climate project. For example, in the case of the strategic nature projects that are the SNAPs, the traditional focus was the implementation of the prioritized action frameworks for the Natura 2000 network in relation to the Habitats Directive. But now it could be also developed other type of plans or strategies that are adopted at national or multi-regional or international level, but for implementing EU policies or legislation related to nature or biodiversity. Here you have some examples, as could be the Biodiversity Strategy 2030 or the Forest Strategy, the Pollinators Initiative, or the Invasive Alien Species, Green Infrastructure, etc. For the strategic environment projects, it could be the plans or strategies related to circular economy, action plans, roadmaps, etc. Could be related to water, for example, river basin management plans or flood risk management plans or the marine strategies. Could be projects related to waste management plans or prevention programs, and also any plan related to quality of air, national air pollution control programs. Regarding the climate issues, it could be projects dealing with climate adaptation strategies at national or regional level, urban action plans leading to a transition to climate neutral plans, cities or mobility plans. It could be also related to climate mitigation plans at national or regional level, and also specific sectors, plans for specific sectors, mitigation of climate impact, like could be industrial sector plans or strategies or roadmaps with the same. Next slide, please. In this slide, we are trying to show you how more or less is or what can comprise a strategic project. Within the gray box would be, let's say, the whole plan, your whole project, comprising everything. Within the green circle should be the strategic project itself. And all the other colored circles would be all those complementary actions to your life projects. Could be related to agriculture, could be related to scientific studies, or could be related to industrial issues. And it is also, for example, shown in the boxes to the left, other different funds that could be contribute to the implementation of your project. So I would like to remark that your project must be organized for the let's say, the implementation or catalyze the implementation of that plan or a strategy that you are chosen, but also your project must be must include concrete measures for the environment, for improving biodiversity, or for improving climate on the ground. So when you are presenting your proposal, you need to provide information on the expected level of implementation of your strategy or plan, the geographical area covered by the measures that you are proposing, which specific gaps or problems are you addressing with your project. You have to explain also the level of involvement and commitment of relevant competent authorities and other non-environmental authorities that you need to bring on board, and which is going to be the contribution of your project to mainstreaming the environmental issues, the climate issues, or the biodiversity priorities in other related sectors. Next slide, please. I could like also to show you about the funding of the strategic projects. As I think it was already said this morning, the project, the strategic project per se, counts with the life co-financing is up to 60%. And the contribution of the beneficiaries should be 40%. In this part, no other European funds can be involved. Given that the strategic projects has to mobilize other external funds to contribute to the implementation of that plan or strategy, you need to mobilize other funds that could be European funds like the European Social Fund, the Cohesion Fund, or Interreg funds, or the Rural Development Funds, the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund, or Horizon Europe, etc. Or they could be private funds also. So it's up to you to decide. But for that specific 40% of co-financing of the LIFE project, it could not be. I repeat, could not be European funds. Maybe you can get other funding sources at international level. For example, it could be UNESCO funds or any private entity for that 40%, but not other European funds. So I think this is one issue really relevant that can be confusing for some applicants, but I think it's important to highlight.
Maria Jose, sorry to interrupt, but we are running a bit late. So can you wrap up in the next 2-3 minutes, please?
Yeah, it's. I am just ending. Yeah.
Thank you.
So. So it is important in your proposal you show the coordinating all these different funds and this type of project. Again, I would like to highlight it is not easy. So the coordinating of this other funding mechanism and the level of mobilization of complementary funds has to be clearly detailed in your proposal. So it is one of the issues that is going to be taken into account in the evaluation. So I will give the floor now to my colleague Fabio for continue explaining some of the evaluation criteria and the specificities of the 2024 call. Fabio, please.
Thank you, Maria Jose. Thank you. Can I have the next slide? Oh, okay, I have it. So in September, you will be asked to submit a concept note, what we call a concept note. It's limited to 45 pages, and there are 4 criteria you have to meet. You have to meet all of them. So our evaluators will have to say that you comply with all those 4. Well, I'm not going to read it. You will have it on the screen, and you will have it also on the presentation and the recordings. but they relate basically to what Maria Jose has been saying, the fundamental points. And let me highlight the number 3, the coordination of complementary funds, and also number 4, involvement of stakeholders. Let's go to the next one. So after September, this is the first phase. There will be a second phase, and we'll have another, the timing shortly. I will show you the timing for the second phase. But here there are 5 criteria. They are different in some aspects from what you've heard this morning of the standard action projects. They look alike for the first 4, but the 5th one is specific for the strategic projects. And again, repetition is always good. It relates to complementary funds. So how much you are able to leverage through this project the mobilization of other funds, and you have to at least mobilize one. As Maria Jose said, it can come from any other sources, but it has to be additional to what the project is funding. Let's go to the next slide. So here is the timing precisely. So the call is already open. It opened last week. In early September, you have the deadline for the concept note. In November, you will know if the concept note was successful and approved. There will be a consultation phase between the applicant for the second phase between January and late February, because in early March you have to submit the full proposal. Here you have 200 pages to explain your full proposal, your full idea on how you're going to implement and mobilize funds and stakeholders. And the evaluation will end in June next year, with a signature of the grant by November next year. Next slide, please. Here there are some indicative figures of the budget reserved for all the 3 categories: strategic nature, SNAP, and strategic integrated project for environment and CLIMA. They are only indicative figures, so if you need to submit, or you want to submit a project that is smaller or bigger in size or in length, please do so. Next slide, please. There is some help you can rely on for your application. You can always contact your national contact points. It's a very useful source of information, and their coordinates and their contacts are available on our website. Also on the website, you will have frequently asked questions and a lot of information, including some fact sheets. And if you are not so sure you can submit a proposal in September, you can still apply for a technical assistance project. The call is open right now already, and you can ask for a maximum of 70,000 euros to support the preparation of your grant for next year. That's why we suggest, and it's again a suggestion, to have maximum 2 years of duration for this specific grant, so that next year you can apply, and then you have 1 more year to go through the first phase and the second phase of the proposal writing. Let's go to the next slide. Then this is the last slide. You can also ask support to SINEA. You have a functional mailbox there written on the right, and what you can ask us is on general questions or specific questions on the application, the documentation, the forms, and what you need to provide. And we can also, once you are successful, we can also put in contact successful projects, but we cannot guide you through the application itself. The content is up to you. We cannot support you on this. You better contact, in this case, your national contact points. Thank you for your attention. This presentation is over, and I hand the floor for some examples to the next speaker, our colleague from DG Environment.
Yes, now we have Przemysław Wojcinski, Policy Officer at the European Commission DG Environment. Przemysław, we are running a bit late, so I will not take more of your time, and I will leave you the floor. Please join us.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. If I could have my presentation, please. I will give you a little bit of the policy context in relation to all this specific information that you have already got. Maybe to give a little bit of example how this this can be used to create a strategic nature project. So the next slide, please. But just as a way of introduction, many of you probably are quite familiar with the EU nature legislation. We have two pieces of legislation that are the driving forces of protecting our EU biodiversity, so the Habitats Directive and the Birds Directive. And this directives provide also a framework for monitoring our biodiversity in the EU. And every 6 years, the Commission produces a report on the basis of the state of nature in the EU. And the last one was produced for the period 2013-2018. And unfortunately, as we are all aware, our biodiversity is not in a good condition. Only less than 20% of our habitats is in a good conservation status. Most of it is in a poor or bad conservation status. A similar situation also relates to the protected species, including the bird species. So we are in the dire need of dedicated projects to improve the condition of our biodiversity. And the strategic nature projects are an example of the projects that can really contribute to improving the biodiversity, not only on the local scale, but also on the broader regional, pan-regional, multi-regional, or national, or even cross-border level. Next slide, please. Also, in addition to the two pieces of legislation that have been around for already quite a few decades, we have new initiatives that aim at improving the state of biodiversity. In May 2020, the Commission adopted the new biodiversity strategy for 2030 as an example, as an element of the European Green Deal. And the main objective of this EU biodiversity strategy is to stop further decline of biodiversity in the EU and introduce a restoration plan for our nature. So next slide, please. And now I will briefly talk about the main elements of this strategy, and also to give an idea what could be the elements of the strategic nature projects that can contribute to reaching the objectives of this strategy. So essentially, the biodiversity strategy has four main pillars. The first one is to protect our nature, because as you are probably very aware of, we have the biggest protected network of areas in the world, the Natura 2000 network, currently at the which amounts to 18% of the EU land territory. But unfortunately, this is not enough to effectively protect our nature. So the EU established a bigger, more ambitious target of protecting 30% of the land and 30% of the sea. 10% of which should be under strict protection, including all primary and old-growth forests. And also we have a target of 30% of species and habitats which are not in a favorable conservation status now, to show a positive trend. Next slide, please. The second very important pillar, in addition to protecting of what we have, is to restore our nature. The main element of this EU restoration plan is the regulation on the nature restoration, or so-called nature restoration law. Unfortunately, as many of you are probably aware of, this very important piece of legislation is currently on hold because in spite of the fact that it got endorsed in the European Parliament in February earlier this year, it hasn't been endorsed by the Council because of the blocking minority of 8 member states who are currently not on board for this new regulation. So we are currently still in a bit of a limbo. We don't know what will happen, but there are still chances that by the end of the Belgian presidency, there will be a decision to get this law approved, or if not, maybe the law will go to the second reading in the between the European Parliament and the Council. But for the moment, unfortunately, this very important piece of Green Deal and the biodiversity strategy is on hold. Next slide, please. Very important element of the biodiversity strategy is also to unlock the financing necessary for biodiversity. And here also life comes very much into play as a key element of this financial architecture of EU funds that deliver for biodiversity. And specifically, the EU has adopted a target of 7.5% of funding from the EU budget for biodiversity by the end of this year, and 10% by the end of the funding period, so by 2027. For the moment, we are not on track to achieve this ambitious target of 10%. Hence, the ambitions and the efforts should be increased. And again, the snaps as an element of mobilizing additional funding for biodiversity are very important from this perspective. We also have emphasis of knowledge and education as a key aspects of delivering of for biodiversity. And again, life projects, including the SNAPs, are very important here to develop new knowledge and to spread it, and also promotion of nature-based solutions, for example, in relation to urban context or other landscape uses, and looking for win-wins and synergies with other policy areas is very important. And the strategic nature projects can also contribute in this respect. So next slide, please.
Excuse me, can you please wrap up quickly, because we are a bit behind schedule. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, this is my last
okay,
slide. and I will maybe just highlight a few elements that have already been pointed out, but are very important in the context of strategic nature projects, is that they should focus on funding measures which are identified in the prioritized action frameworks for Natura 2000. But this is not the only possibility. There are also other plans and strategies that can be targeted by these projects. And as it was already mentioned, the element of mobilizing additional funding is a key here. Also capacity building. There is no obligation to implement conservation measures under this project, but nevertheless, during the evaluation phase of the applications, if there is an important element of the conservation measures, it's always very welcome. And as the colleagues already mentioned, there is the need of involving the nature authorities in the project application and implementation, because they are the ones that are responsible for implementation of the EU legislation, nature legislation. So they have to be involved in the project application and implementation. So that will be it from my side, and I will be happy to answer questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Przemysław. Actually, the question and answer session will be just after the next presentation, so please stay with us. I see that there are already some questions in Slido, so please keep on asking questions, and especially keep on liking questions, because if the question you want to ask is already there, we advise you to like the question so that it has higher chances to be treated in priority. So now I would call on the virtual stage Els Hermans from OVAN, Life IP coordinator of the project Smart Life. Els, please join us.
Thank you for the introduction. So I'm Els, and I have the pleasure to talk to you about our integrated life project. I think with the new terminology of the strategic projects, this project would be a SIP on the environment. Next slide, please. So I work at OVAN, which is the Flemish Public Authority on Waste and Soil Management. And we're also working, of course, on the transition to a circular economy. So I get to share here today a bit about the behind the scenes, about how I manage our project, which tools that we use, what is the timeline of our project, the actions and the results. I actually was hired specifically to coordinate the project, so I was not involved in writing the application. That were other colleagues who were there, but I hope that my testimonial will also enlighten a bit how it works to coordinate it. And I will hope, of course, that you will learn here today, that you will pick up some inspiration for managing your projects or writing the proposal. And of course, that you can get in touch with me. Next slide, please. So the project area of Smart Life is situated in Flanders, which is the northern part of Belgium. Flanders has completely banned landfilling of household wastes and also significantly reduced the share of waste incineration already. So recycling of waste streams and the reuse of products is gradually improving, but we noticed that we need a dedicated approach on handling the plastic waste. It's an increasing share of our waste stream, and it's used across many sectors, applications, material flows. So in 2020, the Plastics Action Plan was approved by the Flemish government, and it inspired the application of this integrated project. So Smart Life commits to closing the material loops and reducing residual waste with 15% by 2027, and also to create a litter-free environment. You see here that there is a picture of the household residual waste back in 2018, which inspired writing the proposal. So you see that there's lots of recyclable waste still in the residual waste that ends up in the incinerators. We, of course, do not want to have that. We want to reduce the CO2 emissions and also reduce the footprint of our consumption by moving the focus to prevention and reuse. Next slide, please. So we started the project in 2020. It was a full pandemic. We were in this project until the end of 2027. So we had a bit of a rocky start. We are in the project with 7 partners, but I'm very happy that the people who wrote the application got the right people together. So it's a very interesting mix of organizations. Each has their own strategy towards closing the plastics material chain. But when you join forces together, it's a very powerful collaboration. So we have a Belgian Federation of Recyclers. We also have the Belgian Extended Producer Responsibility Organizations for the household and enterprise packaging waste. We also have the Flemish Federation of Composters. Of course, they do not want to have plastics in their biological waste. We also have the member organizations for cities and municipalities who are very closely linked to the everyday practice, of course, of the household waste collection, etc. And then we have Westour, who is a local organization working at the seaside, but they, of course, have their specific problematic of the plastic litter at the beach. And next, please. So you see here that the project is split in the 3 phases, as was mentioned before. So we're now roughly halfway the project. We have successfully completed the first phase and the reporting procedure that is linked to that phase. And I can show you here that we have found sort of a rhythm of the project. So every year in fall, we have a monitor moment where we check the project and what is the state of the different actions. And then every year in the springtime, we have a partner meeting when we come together. I think it's a nice balance between getting the partners together, putting your heads together in close collaboration without being too intrusive in the people's agendas, of course. You can click next, and then you will see that, of course, it's always a nice dynamic when you come together with the partners. So in the beginning, it was all keeping our distance and being online meetings, but during the pandemic, we got closer together also in the projects, and the group is continuing to grow, which is very nice. So we're all evolving a bit. And I think the last picture in the bottom row, it was last week actually at the World Circular Economy Forum, which was also a very nice event to work on with our projects. Next, please. So here you see actually the 6 different policy plans that are linked in our project. So we're tackling lots of different fronts where the plastics are linked to. Next, please. And within each of these different policy plans, we have formulated our actions that we're going to implement. So this is something that I use for managing the projects. It gives a nice overview. I think perhaps it's a bit too much to have a look at it when you see it for the first time. But every time that we come together with the partners, I give an update about the status of the project. Where are we? Which actions are going smoothly as planned? Which are delayed? Which could be blocked? So it's something that I put a bit of effort into in the beginning of the project, but now it really helps to track the progress of our project. And hopefully in the end, the entire slide will be purple and everything will be completed. Next, please. And it's actually also a screenshot of my desktop that I took yesterday. So it really helps me in my everyday work. Next, please. Here you see a screenshot of an Excel that I use to also track the progress of these different actions and the milestones and the deliverables in the project. So it's a bit more an in-depth, detailed view that helps to manage the project. Next. And here you see all the same deliverables and milestones, but then split over the different policy plans that we have. Okay, next. And this is something that I also like to discuss with our project partners. So we keep track of the time of the projects. So now we're actually halfway. So this is an old slide that I used. But if you can click next, then you see that there was an update of this timer, like in the the first half of 2023. So we're doing quite well. Okay, next, please.
Sorry, Els, talking about keeping track of the time. Can you please wrap up in the next 5 minutes?
Okay.
Because then we need time for the question and answer session. It's not your fault. It's because we are a bit behind schedule. But yes, please go on.
Okay, so I will wrap up with not showing only the figures, but also the quality of the work. So you can, it's a bit showing the love for the projects. So the next slide, you will see that there is an example of one of the actions. So we have a very nice campaign for inspiring the people of Belgium who love their fries to take their own reusable packaging with them when they go to a fry shop. We're also very closely working together with more than 90 companies who are experimenting for prevention and reuse of packaging. Next, please. We also have a very nice campaign for stimulating the improved collection of enterprise waste and also new investments in new sorting capacity. Next, please. And we have organized workshops for circular ambassadors, local authorities, and also professional recyclers by spreading circular knowledge and skills within different organizations. Next, please. So I just want to remind you that when you manage your partners and stakeholders, it's very important to find the right partners and to get to know each other better. You're in it for a long time, for 8 to 10 years, so you can help out each other in reaching your goals. And also practical things like sharing meeting rooms and helping with each other's communication. And people come and go in these projects. It's a normal way of life. So you, as a coordinator, you should be understanding, but make sure that you have a backup plan, that every person is replaceable somehow. So you should document your knowledge and decisions in a way that's useful for the projects. So when you can later use it for the reporting, for instance. In our project, one of our partners changed their name right after signing the grant agreement. So it was a bit of a hassle, but we managed to round it in a very nice way, I think. And of course, also to have fun together along the way. We often try to have very interactive workshops together, take the pictures together and put the project into practice. Like when one partner has come up with a darts game on food loss, we used it in a project meeting. Next, please. And also, of course, to think about your dissemination of the results of your project. You've seen perhaps in some of the pictures that I've shown in this presentation and the movie that the life flag is there because we also want to share our knowledge, of course. So we have come up with like 3 different target groups for our communication where we target our dissemination towards. Next, please. And of course, you can help out each other in data with the communication teams within your partners to get them all on board and have communication planning. We're very proud about our life flag. So we also made some logos for the project, including the life flag. So it's very easy to share by the project partners. And yeah, just keep emphasizing the importance of that communication also on the social media, of course. Next, please. Here are some very early stage communication that we did, like we made a flyer when there weren't that many results yet, but in the end, when the project runs, you will come up with more and more results to share, which is nice, of course. Next, please. And of course, we also see lots of opportunities to share our experiences with other countries. Also, there is on the right the picture of last week at the World Circular Economy Forum, where I met up with another live project. Next, please. And then, yeah, when your project is approved, just spend time in setting up your project in the beginning. Reach out to the people who are there to assist you in writing the application or in the project implementation. And there's also a very nice live community with other projects going through the same experiences. And don't forget to have fun together along the way. Next slide, please. So this was a get-together of live projects about a year and a half ago, I think. It was very inspiring. Okay. And I think that's the final slide. So if you have questions about implementing your project, don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Els. It was a very, very nice presentation with lots of visuals and an excellent example of an integrated project. So I think it will inspire a lot of our future applicants. Thank you, Els. Now we only have about 10 minutes for the question and answer session. So I would invite my colleagues from CINEA, Fabio Dalan, Maria Jose Aramuru, who did the presentation before, the first presentation on strategic projects, Geraldine Ne, Sharuna Zablekis, and Bernd Decker to join us on the virtual scene and sorry, maybe I forgot to mention also Przemysław Wojcinski to please come back and start answering the questions that are now displayed on the screen. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Eva. So let's go to the first one. Does the LIFE program only support action or can also support strategic plans, city plans? Well, this was asked during the general session this morning. It's very relevant here. As you can see, probably you know the answer by now. Yes, you can do strategic plans under the SIP, although the SIP has the strategic, the project has this requirement to mobilize additional funds. So you doing the plan means relying only on the budget of the LIFE project is not enough. You need additional source of funding. Is tomorrow morning there will be other session on examples of standard action projects where also there you can address plans, city plans, like the adaptation plan comes into my mind, but you can follow also tomorrow morning and see if a standard action project is more suitable to you rather than a strategic one. Let's go to the next question. Can you clarify the need for securing additional funding? One slide said no other EU fund, the other one said no other LIFE fund. And in the other one, there was any other EU or national fund. Thank you. Yes, it's a bit of a difficult concept. Maria Jose, you were presenting that slide.
Yeah, I think that the most easy to understand is that the strategic projects have, let's say, two parts. One is the core, that is your LIFE project, that it has 60% of LIFE co-funding and 40% of your own funds. This 40% can be also any other funding, not European funds. I mean, if you get funds of a private foundation, if you get funds from a charity, if you get funds from an international organization, not an European fund, that can be part of your 40%. And the second part of your project, of your strategic projects, are complementary actions. That must be, that can be funded by other European funds, like could be European Regional Development Funds, European Social Funds, the Agricultural Fund, the Maritime Fund. So that is a part, let's say, of your core LIFE project. But those funds must be, at least one of those funds must be mandatory mobilized when you are presenting your proposal. So this is also in line with the question I see some below of Marie Cloteau. For your SNAP project, you can have EARTH or ERDF that finance the other 40% of your funds. No, because these are European funds. These European funds cannot finance your 40%. Those European funds only can go to finance your complementary actions. That is not the core of your LIFE project. So that is different. I think it's, I hope it's more clear now.
Thank you very much, Maria Jose. Yes, it's a tricky concept, and do come back to us to the Cinea Life inquiries if you need further guidance on this. Let's go to the next questions. Premislav, will you be able to take this one? Is the call of SNAP scheduled for 2025? The applicant is thinking of applying for a technical assistant project, and that's why he's asking for that. Do we have a clear intention?
I don't think I can answer this question because, as far as I know, we still don't have the new multi-annual work program, but we would definitely support having, as a policy unit, we would definitely support having another call as soon as possible, because clearly there is a big interest for this type of projects and there is a big need for them. So I can only support yes, having another call in 2025, and we will definitely lobby for it in the unit coordinating the LIFE program in our DG.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, in fact, the work program for the next 3 years is on the making, and it will come out, but it's still on drafting. So we need to wait until at least the end of the year, possibly even early next year. But maybe Premislav stay here, because I saw a question on the invasive species regulation. Let me find it back. There it is. Could SNAP be directed only to the full implementation of the EIS regulation?
Yeah, clearly, yes. This is one of the things that we explained this morning in the presentation before, because traditionally LIFE was going only for implementing the prioritized action framework for Natura 2000 and related to the Habitats Directive. But now it is open to the implementation of any other strategy or plan related to nature and biodiversity conservation. And then the invasive alien species regulation is one of the policy pieces that can be addressed by a strategic nature project. So clearly, yes, your nature project, your strategic nature project can be aimed only to the full implementation of the EIS regulation.
I would, however, argue that if a project application also makes a link to the implementation of the nature directive, so if it makes also in relation to implementing the plan or program for invasive alien species control a link to the prioritized action framework, that would only benefit an applicant of such project.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. So the next question is, could you explain better the difference in terms of concept between complementary action and main action in terms of concept? Well, I will try myself and then my colleagues can complement my answer. So the main action are the ones tackled through the LIFE project. So what will be financed through your proposal, but then in your proposal there is a section where you explain how you are going to put in action additional activities and funding through another mean of funding that can be EU related. So it's the complementary part, but it's not part of the budget of the LIFE project. So budget and action goes in the same direction. So it can be then you want to mobilize the agricultural funds, then there will be action towards that will be paid by the agricultural European agricultural funds, but not from the LIFE funding program. Yes, Sarunas.
Yeah, I can just add that's correct. And in addition, remember that the strategic project is implementing the project, but it's also implementing the strategy. And usually the strategy is something that's designed by, for example, member state or region. And usually there are actions and activities that are, let's say, independent of our LIFE project. And they have the goals, they have the funding, they have actions. So these other actions that would happen without a live project, regardless if it takes place or not, they are complementary to what the project is trying to do. So that's what we mean complementary. And from the projects, we try to we ask the projects to engage with these funds, to one way to mobilize them, to get to know what they're doing, to in some cases coordinate actions together. So this would be a complementary actions to what the project is doing. And just think about it, that if the live project wouldn't happen, would not be supported, the strategy or plan implementation would still go on. There would still be a lot of funds, a lot of actions going on into that, because that's a strategic thinking of the member state, of the region, to go forward. So the LIFE project would help in some areas where it's not covered by other complementary actions and funding, and they would work together in achieving the plan or strategy implementation.
If I may give an example to try to make it some more clear. For example, think that your project, you decide that your project is aimed at implementing the prioritized action framework in your country, and that one of the measures in that PAF document is to protect, for example, steppe bird species. And then you notice that there are some actions related to agricultural issues that can be financed under the agricultural fund, for example, getting that the farmers are implementing on the ground actions suitable for the steppe bird species, and then you liaise with the agriculture authorities in your country for coordinating the next agricultural funds and to promote those farmers getting funds that are beneficial for your project. So those farmers can benefit from those agricultural funds to implement at the same time actions on the ground to benefit your LIFE project. So that would be an example of those other complementary actions funded by other European funds that are being implemented for the objectives of your LIFE project.
Thank you, Maria Jose. Well, the time is over. I see the other question on industry-led SIP is quite interesting indeed. They're not the majority of the project. I don't know if anybody quickly here has some example in mind. Bernd, do you have a long memory of the program? If you have anything in mind, otherwise we ask the participant to ask that question through the functional mailbox, and we will answer in writing.
Just briefly, as far as I remember, we do not have an industry-led strategic integrated project, but we are let's say lobbying a bit, and during National Info Days, we are also making this point that we would like, I mean, particularly under climate action, climate change mitigation, but also under circular economy would be possible, but that we would see an industry-led strategy integrated project, which is implementing, for example, a voluntary roadmap towards reducing CO2 emissions. So that could be possible, and a private sector would be eligible for this, and then the competent authority would then be the industry or the respective association of the industry.
Okay, thank you very much. We need to close it here. The next questions probably were answered, for what I can see, were answered from the previous ones. So let's move to the next presentation, Eva.
Yes, thanks a lot, Fabio. Thanks to all the speakers for the very good presentations and for the answers to so many questions. I know that we can't answer all the questions, but please bear with us. And you can always send your questions to the functional mailbox, as Fabio rightly pointed out.